કેમ છો ભરતભાઈ?
Absolutely fine, Badrinbhai. Kem cho?
Was fine. Hello everybody. Good evening everybody.
કેમ છો?
Good evening.
Good
ક્યાં
evening.
છે આપણા ચેરમેન સાહેબ?
Sunilbhai.
કેમ છો?
Sunilbhai, Bharatbhai.
Kem
Yes,
cho?
yes.
Majama?
That's fine.
Hi.
Yes.
સરસ પ્રોગ્રામ બનાવ્યો તમે આ.
Kem cho? Majama બધા?
બસ આનંદ મંગલ. બહુ ફન ફર્સ્ટ
સુનિલભાઈ?
ક્લાસ પ્રોગ્રામ છે. સબ્જેક્ટ સારો છે.
સુનિલભાઈ? હા, સુનિલભાઈ કેમ છો? સુનિલભાઈ મીટ ઉપર છે.
Okay, I think Tapanbhai will start. Hello. Hiranmay, good evening. Hello. Hiranmay, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. So sorry.
No. I know that you were quite tied up with other meetings. So I think let's start today. Good evening, namaskar to everyone. At the outside, a very good evening to one and again to everyone around here today. And we've been meeting after a little longer time now. I'm sure that all of you at home and at the office are fit and fine, especially during this COVID crisis, which is very important to tell and know more about people. GIS Foundation has been a catalyst in inculcating the culture of the innovation across not only in Gujarat but even outside. So we know that GIS Foundation has been doing a great work, which is absolutely dedicated to innovation. And the journey had started actually way back in 2011 with the vision of our chairman, Shri Sunilbhai Shah, under the blessings of the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. At that time, he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. In the past, we have established many flagship programs like the GIS Awards, and there have been series of talks and seminars and workshops that we are conducting in the area of innovation and spreading the awareness to meet the goals of our mission. We are thankful to all those who have been participating and moving ahead with us in this mission and also supported us in multiple ways. This particular program today is a curtain raiser to the new talk series, which is Innovation is Life. And I'm sure that all of you do agree with us that innovation is affecting every aspects of life, be it at home, business, education, healthcare, entertainment, food, logistics, and the list goes on. There's no end to it. And the products and services are giving an edge to sustain a market leadership. And I'm glad as a part of this curtain raiser to this Innovation is Life capsule series, we have Mr. Hiranmay Mahanta, who's the CEO of Gujarat Startups and Innovation Hub, which is the nodal agency of Govt of Gujarat, to develop the innovation startups in the ecosystem in the Gujarat state. As an entrepreneur, I'm giving a brief details about him. As an entrepreneur, he co-founded the Techpedia, which is, I'm sure I don't need to give introduction of Techpedia because those who are connected with academics as well, they would know that Techpedia is one of those famous portals, which has made a lot of waves in the entire country. And this was showcased as innovation in the universities all across. And he had been also awarded by the former president, Shri APJ Abdul Kalam at IIM Ahmedabad. He is passionate to develop and harness the inclusive innovation and startup ecosystem processes all across, in the whole country. And, he is a global shaper and community developer from the World Economic Forum. At present, he is acting as a member of the AICT Startups Policy Implementation Committee at the MHRD. He has been nominated to contribute to dozens of technology business incubators to support young startups. He has contributed to the startup policy formulation, deployment strategy, all over the 5 states in India. We all welcome you, sir, to this show of GIS Foundation. And on behalf of all of us, I would like you to interact with you in this innovation life and your thoughts. Your opening remarks, sir, please.
Thank you, Bharatji. It's wonderful. I'm sorry for getting late. I just came out of a meeting.
No, that's
it's
fine.
a privilege to be with you, GIS. I have been a part of all of your national awards all through the years. I can see a lot of very. I think just to start with, I must say that innovation is no more a tool to catalyze your efforts, but it's a key ingredient of your lifestyle these days. And when I mean lifestyle, it's not only the lifestyle to survive, but also to lifestyle to grow. And it applies to all across spectrum of life, may it be business, may it be personal, may it be professional. And the good thing which is happening now is innovation is no more a jargon. It's becoming a day-to-day affair. And all of us are kind of trying to innovate in whatever the capacity that we have. Maybe product, process, systems. Somehow we are a little bit heavily biased towards the product innovation, but there have been a fantastic pool of system level innovation, process level innovation, policy level innovations. And that I think is a very remarkable point we must cherish. Somehow globally, if you look at the global platforms, there is a craze for looking for the so-called brilliant patterns and product level innovation, or particularly technology-led innovation. But also there is a gamut of other side of innovation which are impacting life. So I think as a nation we have been doing well, but then how inclusive we make it, and also like one of the great things whereby I will tell is probably your foundation also has done one thing great is institutionalizing the entire efforts. Innovators are there forever for eternity, right? But how do you create a system? How do you create a platform? How do you institutionalize them? Or at least the support system around them. That's what is probably the developed economies have mastered the best. And there in India, a little bit caught the wave later, but I think we are moving in a decent pace. So great to have the chance to talk to all of you today.
Okay, I think that was a good start to the whole talk. That innovation is no more just a buzzword. It's become almost a part of everyone's life. And true that be it a product or a process, it's been globally accepted. This is how it is going to go ahead. Now, if I may ask you a couple of questions here, for our audience, and even to know how you've been looking at innovation. How would you see this innovation as an index in India vis-a-vis the global index?
I think that is a very important one. जैसे मैं आपको कह रहा था, the important factor is, and this is what most of the developed economy has done, by changing goalposts, they have changed the mindset of people. And what does it mean? That means if you can guide people in a certain direction and incentivize them, people tend to do that. And innovation index is one such goalpost which can really trigger a direction of thinking. Somehow, I mean, a little bit accidentally, most of the factors, if you look at the global innovation index, are also heavily biased towards product innovation, technology innovations. But one of the recent last 3 years, since 2018, thanks to Government of India and others, the request of integrating system level innovation, policy level innovation, workflow innovations has also been incorporated in the global innovation index. And if you look at the index rise, we have been changing from 89 to 66 to 48 now. And one of the regions we have been able to perform better is becoming inclusive. Because in India, many often the data that we capture in terms of measuring the change in the innovation is not available. That doesn't mean that they're not happening. So how do we really translate between innovation happening to innovation representation? And that gap was a real challenge in the index part. And the great thing which happened is, followed by Global Innovation Index, Niti Aayog started measuring the states. And if you look at the last three indexes of 3 years, look at Karnataka, look at Kerala and others, there have been very, very interesting facets. And Gujarat could really look at them because we have been 6-7 ranks. And there are certain factors we have been doing well, but then there are few things where we need some pertinent efforts. For example, there are few indices where we can easily move on, like ICT inclusion. How do you implement information technology for public delivery or public impact? These are easy things to do, but somebody needs to strategically do that. Karnataka has done that, right? So similarly, there are certain facets which are not directly linked to per capita or GDP per investment, right? Because one of the things that we talk more is हमारा R&D में investment कम है, हमारे कंपनियां कम लगा रहे हैं, सरकार कम लगा रही है. But apart from that investment factor, there are also other factors which significantly contribute. तो मुझे तो बहुत खुशी होती है जब सुनील भाई और बाकी जब हर बार शपथ करवाते हैं, इनोवेशंस की रजिस्ट्री बनाते हैं, तो ये भी कहीं ना कहीं कंट्रीब्यूट करता है. जब तक हम इन चीजों को डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं करेंगे, but that doesn't say that कि documentation ही सब कुछ है. There have been great people who have done great documentation, but how do we take that thing to next stage in the value chain? You know, how do we take them to at least to the market level? So that is an important factor. And good thing, Bharat, what is happening is taking clue of the innovation index that Niti Aayog has done. In the education department also, we created something called Student Innovation and Startup Index this year, which has been approved by Honorable Minister of Education. And we are creating these indices for every single college and university in the state of Gujarat. We have more than 3,000 colleges and 80 universities. So now, universities, grants, university performances, and all these things will be linked to the outcome of the system. By now, somehow the measurement has been input driven, but as I was telling you, if you can change the goalpost, people change. So by making it output centric, we are trying to see that these universities and academia, particularly where I work closely, plays a very vital role. We also did one intervention. MHRD started something called auto ranking for innovation with all universities and all. So these are extended version of the innovation index. But having said that, this also inspires us that we should have innovation index for everything. It should be for GIDCH, it should be for clusters, for urban city, everything else. So in every sector, if we can benchmark what level of innovation we are doing and learn the best practices to drive the next practice, I think we will definitely go from 48 to 28 sooner.
No, I think you rightly said, because there has to be a rating system to every innovation that is being done. At the same time, every aspects and processes that we are into. This rating system itself, especially when they are more inclusive, it really gives the right index value for people to understand. And sir, since you are, the CEO at iHub, which is the government of Gujarat, what is your experience with these startups showing an innovative skills and the practical approach to scale up as an entrepreneur?
I think, sir, this is a very interesting fact, particularly with respect to entrepreneurship in Gujarat. And if I may a little bit elaborate, technology entrepreneurship in Gujarat. We have funded around 5,000 teams in the last 6 years. When I mean funded, we have given grants, little amount of 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs kind of grants. And when I look back all these 5,000 teams by now in last 5 years, I can see at least few hundred companies who have done $1 million revenue. And let me tell you, most of these startups are founded by young graduates just coming out of different universities who are our primary stakeholder in the ecosystem so far as iHub is concerned. As you mentioned, these two challenges is bogging them. One is very early, sometimes they become complacent. Once they make 5 CR, 6 CR revenue with 35 people, a post office, they try to take a backseat because they don't have a competitive mentoring or competitive exposure in the local ecosystem who have built scale technology enterprises in our ecosystem. So they look up to Bangalore, they look up to Silicon Valley, they look up to Tel Aviv. But one factor which really bugs them is because there are no more of examples, not significant amount of examples, which can say how you move from a 100,000 rupees company to a $100,000 company to a $1 million company. So that template somehow in the local ecosystem is missing. I'm not saying they are not there, but somehow we don't also codify. We don't know who are they. That's one thing. If you ask me whether they are capable, absolutely capable. Out of these things that we fund, I must tell you, and this might be a little painful for us, I see around 50% of these companies, by the time they make $1 million revenue, they try to migrate out from our ecosystem. And I asked many of them, what's that Gujarat is lacking? Why are you migrating out to Koramangala? Why are you going into NCR? Why are you at least going into Dubai and getting into Singapore? So that is a factor that we must look at. What I'm trying to say is, not necessarily they are not scaling, but the challenge is, can they scale staying here? That's the challenge. They are anyhow scaling. They are doing impact. They are growing big. They are creating impact. But how do we really figure out that they can grow here, they can scale here and impact here? So if you ask me, are they talented? Absolutely. Do the ideas qualify in a global standard? Absolutely. But what is missing is probably that ecosystem which can let them survive and grow here. They are surviving here very well. Gujarat startup ecosystem, that sense, are good mentors, good early stage funding, good mentorship, good platforms like GIS and all around. But once they go to a market stage, how they go beyond that beta level of success to next stage is something that probably as an ecosystem we need to think.
Right. So this means that perhaps, you know, the entire ecosystems of the entrepreneurs to the established organizations, how they would is extremely important. And that's where, as far as Gujarat is concerned, vis-a-vis the other states, perhaps there is some gap which we still need to fill up. I fully agree with you, sir. And now, since you know you've been working closely with the university students, how do you also see university in terms of the you know, this innovation and universities in terms of the education sector, innovations in education?
I think this is a brilliant question, but as you know, this is one area which teaches us a lot. And
Yes.
as I was starting the conversation, not only the product innovation, but process innovation and system innovations are equally important. And this question importance to that. And honestly speaking, if you look at all our 75 universities in which we are setting up innovation centers, leadership played a very vital role. Wherever the leadership is entrepreneurial, wherever the leadership is innovative, the impact has been phenomenal. But how do we transform leadership is a real challenge. Okay. And what we started is we talked to most of the university vice chancellors, the deans, and others. We made a point that each of them should do at least one pedagogical innovation per year. Just to tell you, I was talking to the Director General of Mahanta, and he came forward and he told, Hiranmay will ensure that each student enrolled into our MBA program in Mahanta, in a span of 2 years, will at least work with a live startup in the ecosystem or build around an idea, and we will give them 2 credits per semester, per trimester rather. So he will get 8 trimester, 16 credit. Either he build something and show me at the end of the day as an entrepreneur by learning all the things that he is being taught, or he work with an entrepreneur in the ecosystem and learn and apply the learning that he is doing. This is a brilliant thing. And I was told by Dr. Mehta that out of 350 students, 48 teams ventured companies this year. And this is amazing, you know, 48 teams coming to a leading business school, learning facets of management, and also building. I'm not saying whether they are making 100,000 rupees or dollars. What I'm saying is the pedagogy is important. We talked to Gujarat University, Dr. Hiranmay Pandya. He told, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You know, like that's something, you know, which you know, the universities have to follow certain innovative practices in the processes.
Absolutely.
So, okay, now since you know there we have lots of business entrepreneurs and business people around with us in this group as well, and many more that we are looking. And as the records, even you know, in past we have seen that businesses sometimes fall off with 15, 20 years of a great success because they do not have the right innovative skills that they have adopted during the business processes. What is your take on that, sir?
Absolutely. I think, sir, this is again, if you look at the last 2 years index, business process innovation is one area where India has outperformed. That means even the smallest of small clusters, even the small and medium enterprises are playing a very vital role. One point I would like to highlight here. If you look at, I'll just illustrate through a simple example. Most of our GDP contribution, most of our job creation come from SMEs, progressive SMEs rather. And somehow, if you look at the innovation mapping and all, you look at the large corporations, family houses and others, I think a fair degree of innovations are happening at the SME sectors, and particularly in the context of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Only thing is sometimes the ease of doing business and regulatory efforts are an hurdle. And I will tell you a small thing. Most of our innovators whom we are funding here are developing their product at out of source beyond Gujarat and able to supply to their customers in Gujarat by not manufacturing in Gujarat but somewhere else. That means the global value chain is interlinked now. Value chain has no problem. The problem is, can we have policy paradigm that can take it forward? And second important thing is, if you are an innovative business, many often you find it tough to work business with governments. Many often. And that is the reason in Gujarat, we have been doing something called now procurement in a fast track mode for innovators and startups, in which we are going to do away with L1 methods and figure out how do we encourage. Because if you are an innovative SME or a startup, obviously you don't have the second and third guy with you. And if you don't have the second and third guy with you, in tender process, you will never bid into the process, right? So we need to have an innovative procurement strategy, innovative regulatory strategy where innovative enterprises can fit into the processes. And that's one area which we have been working. And just to illustrate, if you look at Apple versus Foxconn game, Foxconn company पूरा Apple का फोन बनाता है, Apple सिर्फ R&D करके प्रोडक्ट बनाता है, और $500 का जो नेट प्रोडक्ट है, उसमें से $350 ले जाता है Apple, और Foxconn को मिलता है $10. इससे एक बात तो हमको सीखने को पड़ेगा बिजनेस इनोवेशन की पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. चाइना को मिला क्या? चाइना को 40 मिलियन जॉब्स ही मिले ना, लेकिन वो जॉब्स ब्राउन कॉलर जॉब मिले. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज 2% brown versus 98% green. We must think out what is our strategy. Do you want to be an outsourced manufacturing hub only, or do you want to be an outsourced service hub, or can we invent here, can we build here, and can we start here? So these interlinkages in terms of facility, infrastructure, and policy is something that probably we need to look at to more innovate in the business.
I think very rightly said, sir, because I think all the policymakers and in fact all the stakeholders within this particular growth of the country, I think till they are not all into the same page, I think perhaps we will still be lagging behind the growth rate which is expected out of the country. That's very true in terms of all the business processes, or be it any innovations which are there from the industry to the universities as well. Okay, now something about like since we are in the COVID times, what do you see? How would have this innovation really, because it's also an opportunity-based innovations which has also taken care of. But how do you see this innovation in the healthcare during this COVID times? What's your take on that, sir?
Wonderful, sir. One thing we learned is, if one sector of business go through a dip, some other sectors make money out of it. And I learned it from a young girl, first generation entrepreneur from India recently, he's 25-year-old. He was making a product of 3D printing. Just before lockdown, she came and she told me, sir, I have a very innovative mask, which is more efficient, beautiful. Can I go and build it? I have a facility. I told, what are you saying? Are you ready to pivot your business model? He told, I will go out all the way. And can you believe she made 17 crore worth of sales in that region? Royal Challenges Bangalore made her the mascot. Very innovative product. Her startup name is called 4S Silk. One thing that this girl told me that, sir, if there is a crisis, there is a market. We only need to figure out, can we use the same infrastructure, same mechanism that we have to get it going? One challenge for sure in healthcare is, because healthcare innovations have a longer gestation period and more regulatory phase, we got more than 100 applications of startups who wanted to help government during the COVID time, the first wave and second wave. Not very big figure, but yes, we could involve around 20 startups of them to various hospitals and others to deliver their services. But one thing I must say that healthcare, though being a regulatory aspect, if the devices, diagnostic like ventilators, there is a challenge for early adoption of innovation. So obviously, there is a degree of challenge for adoption of innovation, but if you can ease of doing that, I think there is a huge market in public health delivery and systems in place. Recently, Sunil Bhai and Bharat ji, recently we made a list of around 100 and odd startups from the state whom we are trying to engage and work with in different departments in the COVID sphere, right from little masks to ventilators to supply chain analytics, diagnosis and all these things. But yes, we need to learn a lot, but there is a huge opportunity. As Ritika taught me that, if crisis is big, market is big, health is ever going to be an evergreen field. Not only health for preventive health, but holistic health. This is what me and the guys are many often talk that, looking at health in an Indian perspective is more important than only the American or European perspective of health. And it is going to be a huge market we must promote. We are running a special program of innovation cohort for healthcare sectors. If some of you would mentor some of these startups, will be really well. And I'm sure that collectively this can be done. But yes, there is an entry challenge for innovators in the health sector. But once they go through, they really make a significant amount of money, irrespective of. And apart from money, there is a satisfaction of making an impact. And that's a bigger picture of innovation probably. If you don't only innovate to get an best award in the GIS summit, which is good one, but if you make impact and make people impacted, save lives, that's a bigger appreciation in terms of how do you recognize your work. So there is a huge amount of innovations. I got 15 startups speaking today. That's why I got late today. And many of them coming from rural Gujarat, from Dahod, from South Gujarat and Valsad. They have beautiful innovations in health space. We had a meeting today. involving the department officers of health and others. What we are trying now is, can we take this innovation off the shelf and implement on the ground? Because we can celebrate the innovations once they start impacting on the ground. The challenge is not in the talent, challenge is not in identifying problem. Challenge is if we create something, how do we take them to implementation level? And that's what we are collectively trying to solve.
Really, that's true that, how do we create an opportunity out of the crisis, and, how really can scale it up, as the need be. So that is extremely important. And I think that's very true. I often get a lot of questions, sometimes from small startups, that there are startups, who are, struggling, and they do not know how to get themselves evaluated, or sometimes, how they can approach the right people. How would you say that, these students can really approach, the GTU directly or at the iHub?
Sir, we run a program called Startup Clinic, in which any startup who comes to the website and say that I need this and this support or guidance, we immediately connect them. And the training program is in 5 sectors. If they need technology support, we bring in domain expert. If they need marketing and strategy support, we bring in those experts. And one sector particularly look after the legislation or the incorporation or the valuation game. So we have empaneled around 100 leading law firms to take care of IP, and in the process of empaneling some of the very good merger acquisition experts, CFP, who are helping these innovators to understand what is their true value. And wherever, honestly speaking, what we are focusing most of the startup is, we are not telling them that build a $1 billion company, then only we'll pat it back. But what we are saying is, if you can create a $1 million enterprise with profitability and impact, we will pat it back. So what we are trying to do is, we are saying that it's very good to listen that we have 45 unicorns in the country, but what exactly we need is hundreds of companies making profits and creating value for shareholders, customers, and creating an impact. So थोड़ा सा हम बच्चों को ये समझाते हैं, कई बार वो आके बोलते हैं सर हम लोग we'll make trophy companies, sell it to somewhere else. We say that that's not the way India looks for entrepreneurship. I mean, it's very good to have 20 unicorns with $1 billion value. Nobody knows how much losses they make, but it is also important, can you make 1,000 enterprises with 10 crore profits a year? So that's the paradigm. And what we want, and this is what I want to summarize, is we want to democratize the entire game. We want to see that everyone is someone. Every innovator is something. And second thing is, the entrepreneurship ecosystem must be democratized. It's not that only scaling will make you profitable. Sometimes if you solve the right problem in a niche, can also be profitable. And ये एक बहुत important चीज है जो युवाओं के साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं. उनको स्किल तो मिल जाता है, फंड्स भी मिल जाता है, लेकिन जो राइट एटीट्यूड जो चाहिए एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का, एक पर्सपेक्टिव जो चाहिए, वो कहीं ना कहीं उनकी एकेडमिक सिस्टम नहीं सिखाता है. तो हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं by linking them with good mentors and sharing their stories that wait for a long time, don't look wait tomorrow morning and see the valuation, that kind of thing, that we are not promoting them. But yes, we are encouraging them to do some real value business, even if small but meaningful.
That's right. Thank you. I think, this was the just a kind of a curtain raiser to this entire series. And I think we have started off and kicked off very well. I think Sunil Bhai, we have tried to make the due justice, and Hiranmay with us. I think it has become a fantastic start to this whole series of talk. And thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Namaste.
This is one of the GIS Foundation oath. I would request all of you to kindly take this oath. There is a gap in between which you can see that's where you place your own name. So we'll just take this oath in the presence of all of us together. I,
Padmin Buch,
Bharat Patel, in the presence of God,
I, Amber Patel, in the presence of
God,
take oath that I realize the value of knowledge and innovation.
I shall strive to
strive
one innovation near and make innovation and knowledge seeking
Make innovation
a way of life.
in my style.
Me and my surroundings.
way of life for me and my surroundings.
Around India.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bharat bhai.
Thank you.
Good. Excellent curtain raiser, I think.
Thank you very much.
Tapan bhai, you can take over.
Very
Interactive,
nice.
informative, and inspiring session. Hiranmay sir
Very
and
nice.
Bharat bhai, thank you very much.
Mm.
We are thankful to all our supporters.
Effective and
Then,
knowledgeful sessions.
only
I'd like
we
to
are
innovative
able
live
to convey
talk series.
innovation is life. Talk series, information, more than 1.25 lakh people across the innovation fraternity. We acknowledge and convey our gratitude to all innovation movement partners, Gujarat State Plastics Manufacturing Associations, JCI IT Associations, Gujarat Dye Stuff Manufacturers Association, Gujarat Chemical Association, Gujarat Pharmaceutical Association, Indian Drug Manufacturers Association, Gujarat University Startup and Entrepreneurship Council, PDPU Innovation and Incubation Center, Ganpat University Incubation Center. We are highly appreciate the financial support as powered by Wellspun Group for this series. We are looking forward to have few more like-minded people to join this innovation journey towards the inculcate the culture of innovation, a motive of GIS Foundation. Once again, thank you everyone to join us.
Thank you very much. Okay, very fine.
I'm looking forward to
Bharat
see you all in the June 19th session at 4 p.m. This is innovation.
Thank you.
Next session is on June 19th.
Thank
so
you, everybody.
Next.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.